Well, hello and welcome. And today we are going to talk about the weightier matters. If Jesus Christ was alive today, he would say these are the weightier matters. What are we looking at? The state of our mental health facilities in Ghana. Even though you've heard it so many times, but I think as media men, the onus is on us not to just touch and go, but continue putting pressure to where it's due on us, you and I, because we're all playing a part on it. We need to break away from this mentality where we think we are separate from people who are suffering from anything to do with mental illness, even though, in my belief, there are more people who are outside who need to be inside than they are inside. But why is it that the state neglects this sector? It's a constitutional duty, it's a moral duty, religious duty. But if we sit back and look at it, how many times don't you drive by a traffic light and see a particular person with a challenge who's always there? And we always drive by this person and you wonder, who's going to come to this person's aid? And even if you come to their aid and you take them to the clinic or the hospital, what then happens? To the point where the nurses say, because of our safety, last Monday the nurses said, something, we need to withdraw our services. Patients in here need to be calmed down, and they'll be calmed down through medication, and if there's no medication, it becomes dangerous. Patients need to be cleaned up. If there are no gloves, how do we clean them up? And as a nation, if we look back and do a bit of introspection, are we proud of ourselves? Well, my name is Nana Nsakwa IV, and indeed, I am a bit ashamed because even though I'm not directly responsible, hey, I am Ghanaian and maybe I should play my part. What? I don't know yet. When I come back, I am talking to one hero in this country who's fighting this cause. Don't go away, coming back. Well, thank you very much for staying. And I'm sure if you haven't heard it all over the news that the nurses at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital said they were withdrawing their services. And indeed, if your mom, your sister, or if you work there, there isn't much you can argue about it. Patients who are in there are ill and may get violent or could get violent, and they have to be subdued through medication, which they can't afford. The state should pay. The state is not paying. What do they do? With me in the studio is Dr. Pinaman Apa, who is the director of the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. She's a very brave woman, very gallant woman, deserves all the praises and all the support that we need to get. And I hope that by the end of the show, that support from wherever it is have come. I know that the ministry has said they've released some funds and some medication, but even without working from there, I can tell it's not enough. So, yeah, don't want to see but in the palace they say that's your bim. That's in a bim. Doctor, thank you very much. I know you have a very busy schedule, but you responded to the call, which is very good. Doc, but before I even get into our mental facilities, I mean, it's not easy to become a doctor. I know, I can never be a doctor. But once you get in there, there are stuff like pediatricians, probably dentists, dermatology, and all these other ones that I don't think are that challenging. So one was, why would a beautiful lady like you choose this God-forsaken sector? I don't know if it's a fair question, but I'm just wondering.
Nana, thank you for having me. I'll tell you one thing that one patient told me. Doctor, we are papa, kawako school sa, what's your bottom for now, Bishop? But that's just by the by. But I was a student, a fourth-year medical student, when I first went to Accra Psychiatric Hospital. As a medical student, we do rotations through the hospital. We do a 2-week rotation in the 4th year in psychiatry and a 4-week rotation in the final year. I entered Accra Psychiatric Hospital and, well, it's not like the place was nice. No, it's not like the place was attractive, but I fell in love with the place. Why? Because in my mind then, I thought, or in my uneducated mind then, because I was just a medical student, I thought this place looks neglected. And I would go onto the wards and you would see patients there. And then I was told that only a few doctors want to work in mental health. And I thought, why that? That was when I decided I wanted to be a psychiatrist.
Wow.
I told some of my friends, and of course, the reaction you would get is laughter in the first place. Why would you want to be a psychiatrist? And they would just laugh it off. Oh, it will go up, because we're all gunning for, like you said, the surgeries, internal medicine, and all that. But when I finished, again, I really wanted to do psychiatry. I didn't get a favorable response from people. Of course, my own daddy was not even in support of it. That what if you go to work and someone hits your head with something? What do you do in there? So actually, I started a residency in surgery. And whilst there, unfortunately, I lost my daddy. And it was a very difficult time for me. And I took some time off. I was in the UK and I was like, well, I was in the UK, let me write some exams. They have what you call the PLAB. And the PLAB, you have to read a lot of psychiatry to be able to pass the PLAB. And whilst reading, I'm like, what am I doing in surgery? I really want to do psychiatry. So I came back and I left. I was in Kolebu. I left Kolebu and came to Ghana Health Services to join psychiatry, and I've never regretted it since.
Wow, wow, wow. So for you, it's a calling.
I would say so.
Do you understand now why everybody, would ask, even your patient would wonder, what are you doing here? Once you entered.
Yeah, I do understand. But Nana, let me tell you, when I entered there, I first came to Accra Psychiatric Hospital in 2006. And I can tell you that there's been a lot of improvement. A lot of improvement. And, Dr. Akwesi was the director, and I can say that he did a very good job.
No, he fought a good fight.
Yes, in there.
Doctor fought a good fight.
When I went there,
got the media involved.
Exactly. When I went there, our consulting rooms were nothing to write home about. Now you go there, at least, even though it's not the best, I think it's an improvement of what we used to have. So I think we are getting somewhere.
Okay, now before I even go to the facility, now those of us outside of the facility, why is it taking us so long to accept, understand, sympathize with people who would have mental challenges?
Nana, I guess that sometimes things that we don't understand, we allocate spiritual meanings and put certain meanings to it. And I guess that most of us do not really understand mental health and mental illnesses, if I should say that. And one day, just quite recently, I was talking to someone, the person told me that, Doctor, we don't understand the mental illness like you people do. So I think that you should come down to our level, because when you come out in the media, you start from a point where you think we understand, but really, truly, we really don't understand it. So maybe we need to embark on more education to demystify mental illnesses, for everybody to understand that it's part of it. God created the whole body. He created the mind, he created, the brain, limbs, and so on. Your heart can get ill. Your tummy can get ill. So can your mind go ill. So why is it that when your mind gets ill, we neglect you just because your mind is ill?
Isn't it? I've never heard it like that before.
But you can't, and people would say, oh, I'm going for a medical checkup. When you go for a medical checkup, do you leave your head at home? Oh, because then they will check you from all this. Why don't you check up your mind too? And that's how we should look at it. Okay, we forget that mental illness is part of us, our everyday life. You may not have mental illness per se, but you can have what we call mental ill health. For instance, if you're not able to sleep, night after night, you're not sleeping well. Of course, it's part of what we call mental ill health. You come to work, you are irritable, you are fighting with everybody around you and so on. It's mental ill health. So it's part of our everyday life, and it's high time we understood it that way. Of course, then you can go into the realms of the illnesses itself. But like you said, people also have put it like that mental illness is all about madness.
Is it because we don't believe that the mind should be ill? I mean, fine, my eye can hurt, my nose, my tongue, my belly, but my mind should not. I mean, where have we gotten that belief that no, my mind cannot be ill?
I think that people believe that when your mind is ill, it's like you can't function at all. But that is not true. They've associated mental illness with, like what you say, madness on the streets. So that if your mind is ill, you have to strip naked, you have to walk on the streets and be dirty. No. Some people will say, oh, I have depression, but I don't have mental illness. What is depression? Depression is mental illness. But like I said, people think that when you are mentally ill, it means you are mad, sort of. But that's the percentage of that madness is just about 5% or so. It's just a group, okay? It's just part of the whole mental illness thing. So we have to come into understanding of some of these things. Sometimes, Nana, you've called me here. Sometimes when you call us to come, of course, we don't do the work that you do, so my heart will beat a bit, I'll be a bit anxious and so on. But sometimes it can be that bad that I may not even be able to talk to you. It's an exaggeration of a normal thing, but sometimes it prevents people from functioning. When it does that, you are entering into the realm of mental illness. And some of all these things are there. Sexual disorders, the substance disorders and all that. They are all part of mental illness. And it's high time we continued educating the public for them to understand that it's not just madness.
I mean, is it maybe time we need to rebrand? Because as soon as you say mental, everybody's holding on to say, what's he gonna, what's the next one? Because if you say mental, mental and add illness, oh, no. As soon as mental comes, we are all agitated. No, what's going to follow the mental? Is it time to maybe rebrand it so that I don't know.
Well, we've been thinking about that because at first we were saying, Accra Psychiatric Hospital, let me use Accra Psychiatric. We had an asylum, and therefore you even had the asylum downs and so on. So you're like, the asylum is bringing all these stigma, and so let's move to Accra Mental Hospital. And then we're like, because of the mental, people are a bit hesitant. We said, okay, now let's move the mental, let's put Accra Psychiatric Hospital. Now the psychiatric is also becoming
an issue.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that whatever word we put there would have the stigma or whatever it is attached to it, unless we come to the understanding that, look, it's part of an illness that someone can get. That's what I think.
And unfortunately, it's this same society who have all this stigma, including myself, fearing mental, become, ministers in charge of education, health, president and everything, and they have to make decisions that would affect the mental health. So this is my belief that we then put it right at the bottom of the queue that, well, no, these are quote unquote mad people. Let them stay there. Let them stay there. How frustrating is it? And how you manage?
Very frustrating because, like I said, like you rightly put, because we don't really understand it, it becomes less of a priority to us. We put it down there, and therefore we neglect us to the extent that even the little funding that has to come to us, we are marginalized in that. So it becomes difficult for you to function in that area. And so it's very frustrating. And that is where it has gotten Accra Psychiatric Hospital now.
See, I say this because just down the road from you is Rage Hospital, and it's probably going to look like Dubai when it's finished. 600 bed and this and polished and all beautiful and everything, and then just a mile up the road is completely total neglect.
Now we've had people walk in front of the gate or drive past for like 20 years and so, and has never ever entered the hospital. I guess you've driven past the place.
I came to do an interview. I was part of them until I came to interview Dr. Kwesiose.
Okay.
And so then I had to come in. And that's why I was asking you if it's big, because I only saw just the front. I didn't realize that, you had a huge facility behind it.
We do.
Let me confess. I mean, anytime I panic. I don't know. I think there's going to be, attacks and wild outbursts. And, I also have that perception. I mean, I guess many people out there think that once you enter there are people ready to, eat you alive.
Eat you up, yeah. I think that was the essence. I don't know if you heard of it. During our mental health week, we did what we call an open day. That was the essence of it. We wanted to open our gates, let people come in and see what the facility is like, so that you don't continue having the wrong perception about the place, that people just walk around and then when you get there, someone will hit your head with it. People entered and were pleasantly surprised. So you really have a nice facility in here. And so people should visit the place. We won't allow anything to happen to them.
Maybe we should start schools, like getting schools to, just when you came, there were some schools here looking at the studio and stuff, so maybe they should send
We would love to have them. And some do. They write to us that they would want to tour the facilities, so they come in and then we take them round and there.
The gory stuff. The nurses were withdrawing their services because they were at breaking point. No gloves, no medicine, and the food that's being served, really horrible. But who is saying what and why?
And people think that it's this year that the place is crumbling down. No, I've been in Accra Psychiatric Hospital for like I said, over 10 years now, and it's a recurring pattern. I remember every year we would come out and shout, we don't have money, we don't have this, we don't have that. And that is what has brought us to this point. Because anytime we come out and cry we don't have, there is a sort of stopgap measure put in place just to carry us on. And that's it. There's not really been a long-term solution to the problems in the place. And therefore, every year we have this problem coming up. And that's what happened this year. Really, I have to say, I took over the place in January this year, and we were doing okay, but we do have some suppliers that supply us with items like food items and the detergents and everything that we need to do. And the facility does not generate enough internal generated funds. We don't have internally generated funds. And
there's no service that you do that you charge money?
We're not supposed, per our law, we're not supposed to charge on services. But somewhere last year, we instituted some tokens on some charges, should I say some charges. It was, for instance, we needed people to pay a little bit for the folders because we need to get them, we need to print them and so on. So we said that, well, let's put some charges on the folders, for instance.
So you can reprint more.
So we can get some. And then we put some, I think it was 10 cedis, yeah, 10 cedis as consultation fee, so that we'll be able to use these monies for little things that we needed. So these were small charges that we were taking from the services that we were rendering. But even then, let me tell you, because of this 10 cedis, we saw that our attendance, OPD attendance, was dropping. Because people could not pay for this 10 cedis, and therefore they would stay away or something. Not that if they came and they didn't have the 10 cedis, we would refuse to see them.
But it just wouldn't come at all because they knew.
Exactly. And even then, those we saw, it was not everybody who would pay for the 10 cedis, but these little charges was helping us, because then we would gather it to, for instance, pay our casual workers. We do have some casual workers in there, so monthly we will use it to pay them. If their kitchen needed LPG to work, that's what we used to pay. So with the suppliers, we were surviving. However, in July, they decided that we owed them quite a lot of money, and they were not prepared to supply us with supplies again, because we needed to pay off the debt. And that was where we started going down, because then the little monies that we were collecting, we needed to channel to buy food for the inpatients. We had about 500 inpatients then. The day they withdrew their services, the day the suppliers stopped, we had like 24 hours of 24-hour
food
supply, yeah. Because we were waiting, it was July, yes. It was 1st July, and we were waiting for them to bring in the supplies for the month. And that day they said they wouldn't come. And so
i.e. oils and tin tomatoes and peppers,
all those things. And so I guess you heard, as we went, we talked to our mother agency, the Mental Health Authority, we talked to the Ministry of Health. However, if we were to wait for them to bring in things, then our patients were going to starve. So we ran to NADMO, we ran to AMN, they all brought us certain things to help us go
That's
on.
not right,
and then,
you can't be begging.
It's not right. Nana, I had to personally leave my office to go looking for food for the patients, because I couldn't just sit there and look on for the patients to go hungry. Okay, so, well, since then we've had donations from...
So literally, you go to the office, oh, please, if you have something, give me some.
We are running out of food. Yes, so we are coming to see what can you do. We called ourselves professional stalkers then, because we would virtually go and sit there and wait for the person. We didn't want to talk to just receptionists, and so we wanted the bosses themselves so that they would donate to us. Look, it got to some time we had to buy adult diapers for the hospital, because we have geriatric wards with elderly people. We have these kids, they're not kids, they are mentally retarded. We have a ward for mentally retarded. And sometimes we need adult diapers for them we couldn't buy. And sometimes they would have to use, the nurses may have to use rags on them. And sometimes it was too bad. And so we would sometimes I'll just call my nurses, some of them that were close to me, look, bring money, you bring this, and I'll gather it. Then we'll go and buy diapers for them. That is how bad we were getting. All along, though, we were in touch with our Mental Health Authority, we were in touch with our ministry, and they were trying to get at something to do that. And the nurses were helped. I would say I have a great staff. Nana, believe me to be, I have a wonderful staff. Okay, the minister visited us, and he was like, the first thing that strikes me is that this place is neat. Even though you're crying that you don't have detergents and so on, this place is neat. And I said that yes, the little that we can provide for this staff, they use them that judiciously, that it works for them. And sometimes these people would actually go into their own pockets and buy detergents to do this. But I've had questions, I've had people question me, for how long are you going to run the hospital on donations? And the nurses would also come, Dr. Paul, for how long are we going to do this? We can't, for how long are you going to go around the people's offices
and it's
begging for...
question.
Exactly, begging for things and so on. We again were pushing for monies to be released to us. Yes, sometimes they give us some subventions, but they would say, let's pay, we should pay the suppliers and so on.
Because I heard your interview with Kojo Yankson on Joy, that, the budget that you wanted 7 million and you were given 400,000.
That was last year. The budget was 7 million, and then
to run the place.
To run over the year.
Over the year.
And then
So what would 7 million do? Food, wages?
No, wages is through the controller and accountant.
So that would be what?
So food,
medicines, diapers,
everything, like basically, so consumables and detergents, everything to run the hospital. Yeah, and that.
Because obviously you have 500 people averagely throughout the year, people coming in and going. Nobody pays.
Like I said, we were just taking some tokens,
petty cash for petty cash.
Yeah, for petty cash.
And they gave you 400,000.
And they gave us 400,000. They gave us a ceiling of 450, I think so, 450,000. We got around that figure, yeah.
So then what happens to the 6.5 million left?
And that's how come we've accrued debt over the years, because we make a budget, we are given a ceiling, and then what we actually do get, and then we continue getting the supplies
in the hope that
hope that monies will come. But when we get the subventions, it's not enough for you to use some to run the hospital and also clear your debt. So maybe you would pay some, but it wouldn't be enough. If you owe someone like 4 million and you're paying about 200,000, of course, it's just a drop in the ocean.
It's almost an insult.
Exactly. And that's how come we accrue that much debt.
So what's your debt there now?
Now we owe about 3.7 million. When the minister visited us, I guess you heard that he was going to give us some monies. We got about 500,000, and we're asked to pay. We are asked to pay our debts, some of the debt, with the 500,000. So we did that, and that dropped the figure to about 3.7 million.
So how are you doing with food now?
Well, through donations, we have quite a number of bags of rice that would take us to somewhere next year. We have oils and so on. But like I was saying to Kojo, I think it's easier for people to bring rice and oil and so on. But the perishables that goes with it, like the tomatoes, onions, fish and so on, it's a bit difficult. So then the hospital has to pay for that. And now we cut down to the barest minimum. Even that, we use about 7,000 cedis a week to get these perishables alone to be able to feed the patients.
That's tomatoes, onions,
peppers,
fish.
all the beans that in the
Because 500, you have a lot of people in there.
A lot, and a lot of them are what we would call
vagrants. You feed them 3 times a day or twice?
We feed them 3 times. They eat breakfast, lunch, and supper.
Wow. So ideally, you just need your budget done, and you'd have been fine. But it doesn't look like it would ever happen, would it?
It wouldn't, and we've had this challenge over time.
Yeah, over I've had that,
exactly.
Complaining about the same story.
And that's why the mental health law had that mental health fund that Dr. Kwesi continues to talk about. That in the mental health fund, if we are getting it operationalized, then it would help fund the mental health services that we render, and therefore it would help curb some of these problems that we are having. But as you know, the LI has not been passed, and that's what we are waiting for it to be passed.
Well, I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, I remember one of the things Dr. Kwesi was doing was that all hospitals should just have a mental facility in there somewhere, so that when I walk into Nyaho or Kolebu or Accra Polyclinic, you don't know which doctor I'm going to see, and therefore the stigma dies. Is it still in there, or what's happening? Don't move, we're coming straight back. Well, that's the sad state of affairs, indeed, with both those of us inside and those of us outside. I think, indeed, we are all in a very sad state when it comes to mental health facilities, mental health sector in general, how we perceive it, how we treat it. And I'm here with one gallant lady who's championing the cause to make sure that it gets better. Dr. Pinaman Appel. Doc, I had a conversation with Dr. Akwesi saying, trying to get all other hospitals just to have a department in there so that, the stigma sort of dies. Is it still in the pipeline? Would it work?
Yes, it is in the pipeline, and we're still on it. Again, our law was looking at deinstitutionalizing the care, and focusing more on community care, so as to reduce all this stigma and so on. And therefore, they put in that every district hospital, every clinic or whatever should have a unit. Initially, you would go somewhere, and then even the unit that is provided there, you find it at the back, somewhere at the back of the facility or so on. But at least it's there. And we don't see why someone should move all the way from, let's say, the northern region just to come down to Accra Psychiatric Hospital or to Pantan before the person can access health.
Because there are 3 major hospitals.
Major hospitals,
Accra and Ankafo,
all in the south. Right, so someone would, if the person needed a long stay or even needed some care, the person has to travel all the way down there.
That's the reality.
That's the reality. We've seen cases from...
So like Bronga half and stuff, there is nothing there?
No. Kumasi has a psychiatric department. Kompanoche Hospital has a psychiatric department in there. And but they don't do long-term stay. So if the person needs to stay longer in hospital, then the person has to come down to a hospital or Pantan, and that's what we're trying to.
But it's been like that since inception of Ghana. See, well, we all need to be coming for a checkup. This has been there since. So hasn't it
again? We've also opened a department at Tamale Teaching Hospital. So there is a department of psychiatry there. I was actually there sometime in 2011. There, yes. So
but if you need long stay,
you would have to come down.
There are no wards there to accommodate you for long stay. For long stay,
no. When I was in Tamale Teaching Hospital, for instance, we had to use their emergency ward just to detain and then send the person back home. So you couldn't admit the person for long, and therefore, if you needed the person to be on a longer admission, then the person has to come down.
So, how many psychiatrists do we have as a nation?
No, I think we have 16 psychiatrists, if I remember correctly.
16
in active service. We just lost one psychiatrist who was at Tamale Teaching Hospital, Dr. Sori. We lost him, I think, somewhere last month.
16?
Yes, sir.
So, and the statistics show that 10% of every population, needs some sort of help. And I always put the population at about 30 million, even though they say it's 25, 28, but I think it's about 30. So the 10% of that, you have to look after all these.
You will have to.
But this 16, there are some in private service.
Yes, there are some in private service. And there are some who would also come in to, they would come into the hospitals to help and so on. But I should mention that it's not only the psychiatrists who would look after all these people. We have what we call the clinical psychiatric officers.
Okay.
Yeah, clinical psychiatric officers are, they were physician assistants that were further trained in psychiatry. And therefore we have some of them in the, we have some in the regions that also take care of the patients and so on. We also do have physician assistants in psychiatry. So they all help us in taking care. And then the community psychiatric nurses also man the community. So we all take care of the patients.
Ideally, I don't know if there's anything as an idea, but with our population, what would have an ideal number of psychiatrists that we need?
We're looking at about 80 psychiatrists to be able to take care of
That would have been ideal.
That would be an ideal thing for us. 80 and above,
But,
yeah.
But as it is now, I don't think anybody is even risking, daring to come. It's not attractive enough. It's only the brave ones like you who would dare.
And we have some female ones that, that we have some in training, and now there are really females in there. When I came into psychiatry, I trained in the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and I actually became the first female psychiatrist trained by the college. But since then, we have some gallant women who've come, we are taking over psychiatry.
Look, if you see, somebody on the road, those of you who know the ring road and where bus stop is, there's this chap that's just sat on there, for years. He's just on the pavement, and literally on the road next to the pavement. Just as you're going to do a U-turn, now they've changed the road. He's just there. Whose responsibility is it to, I don't know, bring him, arrest him, detain him? How does it work? Because we all drive past him.
Yeah, actually, it would be the responsibility of our local government to be, are they called local governments?
Social.
Yes, our local government to take care of the people found in their districts or communities in there. But I should mention that the Mental Health Authority has a program or a project called Operation Clear the Streets, Restoring Dignity. And they do it in collaboration with Accra Psychiatric Hospital. We would go onto the streets and bring in some patients and clean them up, look after them, and when they are, treat them, when they are well, we take information from them and then we will reintegrate them into the society. We have we have records on about 70 people that we've done that with. Unfortunately, because of our funding issues, we are unable to do it as frequently as we would want to. And the Act actually, yes, stipulates that the local government should be responsible for these people. So you bring them and then you take care. It's not only Accra Psychiatric Hospital that has done this project. So I know that some regions are also doing it. Actually, it was started by Koforidua. They started it and we replicated it, and it's being done. So if we really had funding, I'm sure these things will be done. I recently had to pick one guy. I live at East Legon, and there's at American House, right under the traffic light, there was this guy who would sit there day and night, and when it's raining, he's in there. Anytime I see him, he goes to pick up rubbish and packs it there. And sometimes it's not AMA, Zoom Lion would come and clean the place, but he would go and come and pack. And one day when I was coming from home to work, I knew it was going to rain. There were dark clouds, and I was like, let's pick this guy up before this rain comes down. And fortunately, even though we didn't have money, we had to pick him alone. So my nurses went there and they picked him up. They brought him to the hospital. He's doing well now. Wow.
Because the doctor told me that 95 of them can't be healed. That is those you meet outside and all dirty.
All they need is medications and care, and they'll be fine. They would be fine.
Back to medication, because with your field, even though in the health sector, medicine is very important, but if your arm is hurting and there's no medicine, fine. When it comes tomorrow, you can take it. But with mental health, how vital is your medication as compared to somebody doing limb medicine or stomach medicine or back medicine? How vital is it to you guys?
Well, it is vital, but like I said,
are you in the liberty to wait till next week?
Wait, well, in some cases you might. That is, if you don't have, if you don't have the medications. But in some instances you cannot, because if someone comes in and the person is restless, agitated, and aggressive, you need your medications there and then. At least if you don't have what we call the psychotropic drugs, at least you should have Valium, or what we call diazepam. You should have it at hand, at least to sedate the person. So our medications are very vital to us to prevent people from becoming aggressive, and also in being aggressive, attacking others and so on. So yes, and we also need the medications to prevent what we call relapses, because some people may be on medications and they are doing so well. Then if the medications run out, then they are bound to have a relapse. And sometimes it's bad when they do that. And some of the patients actually live in fear of having a relapse, and they don't want it. And therefore, if the medications are not there, people are a bit worried and so on. So our medications are very vital to us. Even though in our field, it's not just medications we use. Sometimes we use some other methods like psychotherapy and so on. We talk and so on. So yes, medications are vital.
The other thing which was disheartening was, some of the nurses complained that, when they get hurt, they have to fend for themselves. I mean, how true is that? Because I find that a bit unacceptable. That if you're caring for a patient, he has no medication or gets a little bit excited and hits the nurse is on their own?
Well, ideally we would have to, let's say if the person gets hit right now and the person goes into the hospital, ideally we should take care of the medical bills for the person. But sometimes we may not be around, so the person just goes in and has the medical care. So the person then needs to bring receipts and so on to have a refund. But sometimes, because of our challenges, since a person may be well now, we'll say, okay, well, we'll pay you and so on. Sometimes it might drag. But what is disheartening is when someone gets a permanent damage, for instance, and then we need to seek compensation for the person. The one that's beyond the hospital, it has to go through processes and end up somewhere in the ministry and so on. So, and sometimes it can take years before they get that compensation. Most of them would just leave to let go. I've seen people lose their eyes. I've seen people lose their legs and so on whilst they were working, and it had taken years for some of these compensations to come, or they never came at all. But if right here you get hurt and we're in the position to take care of your medical bills, then yes, we would do that.
Look, Monday's withdrawal, I mean, how bad do things get for the nurses? Because it looks like there's been challenges and you've been in there all this time. So what could be different this time for the nurses to say, this is the last straw? I mean, you've lived it, lost limbs, eyes, managed, bought your own detergents, hold it here, patch here and there. So what could have happened for them to say, this is it?
You see, I think it's painful. Nana, it's painful that you cry out that you need help, you are drowning, and nobody seems to come, or you have the perception that nobody is coming to your aid. Because their cries are like, look, since July, we've been everywhere crying that we need help. Why is it that nobody is coming to our aid? Our mental health authorities pushing. I know that the minister was also pushing and so on. So why is it that nobody is coming to our aid? And I think that was the last straw for them. They were like, for how long are we going to do this? Why is it that I have to come to work, and then at the end of the day, when my salary is paid, I have to use it to take care of the facility that I'm working in and so on. So I think that the pain of the emotional pain and the trauma of it all, and then it really got bad because you see, the past few weeks, I saw someone sent me a video on the food that they ate. I had gone home and the food that they prepared for the patients. you know, because we didn't have money, we had cut down on fish and also, so we're buying more of eggs for the patients. And I hear they were going to eat rice and egg stew. But seriously, you couldn't tell whether the stew was soup or, you know, remember, you know, those days, gasso, yes, you remember gasso? Yeah, you couldn't really tell. And I can bet you that the gasso that we were having was even better. And there were these round things, and that were supposed to be the eggs and so on. You know, and the patients see this, and sometimes they're like, why are you feeding us this? You understand? And sometimes they become agitated, and then they turn their aggression
on the outside think that they are not in a right frame of mind to determine what is a good food and not good food, because you're driving by and you see somebody in a gutter, you know, drinking or doing something, and then to you, that's all that there is about mental health. So if somebody can say, oh, I boiled rice, but the stew wasn't too good, and they were complaining, you're thinking, hold on, I saw one drinking from a gutter, he didn't complain. How come now they are complaining about rice? So I think this is what
I think that's the perception. Understand. Yes, that when someone is mentally ill, the person does not know anything at all. No, it's just, sometimes it's just part of it, the mind that has its own problems. All the rest of the brain is working adequately. You see, it's not only, it will surprise you. Someone would be in suit, nice suit, and be functioning all right.
Seriously challenged.
Okay, just talk to the person for a few minutes and you know that, no, but the person would be going to work, doing his work all right. So we shouldn't think that once someone is mentally ill, it means that the person cannot function on any other front. Yes, some of them may be that severe that they may not be able to function fully, but it doesn't mean that they can't function at all.
They seem to be in what we know seems to be in the minority. From listening to you.
Exactly. That's what we try to make the public understand, that what you think of as madness is just the minority of it. We have a whole big whatever of mental illness in there.
Like my director, right? He just came and made sure that the glasses were, you know, very symmetrical. That's OCD. That's the forcing. I'm sending you out there. That's OCD.
Yeah.
But that's also, you know, another form of
mental illness. It's part of mental illness. That was I was giving the example of people saying, well, I had depression, but no depression is mental illness. Anxiety is mental illness.
And the severity could end you in trouble.
Yeah.
Is there a way in which we can communicate for all of us to understand what's in front of us so that we solve it once and for all? Because today I like the idea that all your parts of the body can be ill. Even your sexual organ can fall ill. But as soon as your brain falls ill, you think it's the end of the world. I think that sunk in for me. Maybe you'll sink in for the viewers. But going forward, how should we tell this story?
I think that we would still need to, like I said, demystify the whole mental illness thing. But when they come to us, we try to tell them about some of these things, okay? And I'm thinking that we all have to take a part in it. When you come with your patient, you know, most people like coming to us, especially our patients. They like coming to us because we talk to them a lot. I'm sorry to say, but we are not like our other colleagues, okay? we talk quite a lot with them. We spend time with them. And we spend time with the relatives because we take it as an opportunity to educate them. We educate them for them to realize that they also have a part to play in the management of the person. Yes, sometimes we understand the difficulties that come with it because it's not easy to be living with someone who is mentally ill. It's not easy because sometimes you may even have to stay away from work to be able to even bring this person to the hospital or even to take care of the person. Sometimes you've had single moms who could not go out to go and work. to even come back and feed her son or whatever, her son or daughter. So it's a whole big challenge, but then we all have to take our part and play it because, well, we have the problem. What do? Fold our hands and sit there and say, well, it's overwhelmed us, so we won't do anything about it. I think we need to.
You listen to, the president was interviewed and he was asked if he knew about the challenges he said, or it hasn't been brought to his notice. Later on, his spokesperson came to say, oh, no, he was just talking about that. He wasn't aware that the nurses were going on strike that particular moment. But it all feeds into what we are talking about, because it's not as if these issues just arose this morning, when talking. But as a citizen, and this is politics, your doctor can comment on it, but for you and I you're reading that government overspends so much money. If I'm reading a report here and it says, according to the Finance Committee report, the presidency was allocated 16.5 million for general administration of office, but by the end of September in 2014, they had spent 23.2 million, even before the year ends. The Chief of Staff's office was allocated 7.5 million. By September, they had blown 48 million. So it's just that we haven't, as a people, that sector is not a priority. It's not your fault. This is general knowledge, doctor. It's not your fault. It's just general knowledge that, and I don't want to say it's NDC thing. No, it's a Ghana thing. So please, this is not an NDC. This is a Ghana thing. Because this hospital's been there since Kwame Nkrumah. So
since 1906.
Wow.
Actually.
So it's not an NDC thing. Don't pigeonhole it. Let's accept it as a whole so that we can treat it. Because even in all these manifestos, there isn't anything about mental health. They talk about health sector, and to us, health sector is maternity and this.
Mental illness.
No, mental illness
is not part.
It's not part.
Yeah.
It's not part of it. Are we stuck?
We are not. We are not stuck because we still have passionate people who want to see mental illness go forward. We still have selfless people who work in mental health, and they want to see the sector thrive. We are not stuck. Yes, we may not have the funding and all that to do things for people to see, but underneath it, we're doing our part.
We have 1 minute. I'll put something here that, you see, things are so bad that, even if you owe 7 million and they bring you 400,000, thank God, it's so bad that Dr. Dodd said that, I'm saying to you, so and I say, but how do you ask for more?
Yeah.
Is that where we have found ourselves now, that, look, anything you give us, I'll hold it. Instead of going to say, look, this is unacceptable, it's in the Constitution, it's in the law, give me, what I'm due.
Yes, we can take that stance, okay, and say it's in the Constitution and law, we are looking for what is due us. But then remember that there will be some patients who may be suffering in the meantime. And that's why when the little comes to us, we hold on to it, because
standing your ground, just go and sort your problems out.
We just want to sort the patient. We don't want to play politics with the patient. So all that we're doing, it's because we have these people to take care of. It's not because of politics, it's nothing. We just need to sort them out.
Dr. Penaman Apau, gallant lady, a hero in my books by all accounts. Let me appeal to you, all you churches, big telcos, all these big alcoholic bitters, this, bitters, that. A little bit of your profit and head towards the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. They have rice, but they could do with more. If there's any way you can put in some small standing order so they can buy tomatoes on a weekly basis while the government seems to file its feet, it's all our problem. One day you and I, or our brothers or sisters, our wives, could end up there. Let's play our part, because this is what Jesus will say is the weightier matter. Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Is there any number, if it's donations or something, is there any number?
Yeah, well, let me give my number out.
Your personal number? No, they will eat you alive.
Okay, so
I'll do the very on protocol. Shout it out for me. Very on protocol, but shout it out for me. Direct 0244 438853. Very unconventional, but 0244 438853. 0244 438853. If you're a church, institution, company, call them and give them something small, because the onus is on us. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again, but I want to say thank you to Dr. Benamai Apao. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.